Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. This is, I believe, our third competition of the year, and tonight is an open competition. So unlike the themed ones, which we have a couple of those ones coming up, pretty much anything, well, I shouldn't say anything goes, but anything appropriate goes for tonight's open competition. And a huge thank you to Scott Wilson, our judge tonight. A little bit more on him here in a few minutes in that, but he judged for us. It was a couple of years ago. I want to say it was was it a Zoom only? I know there was one time that it was a Zoom only one that I recall, and did a really good job with the commentary, great feedback that we got from him. And in fact, he gave one of my images a 10 in a judge's award. So naturally, opening, I reached out to him real quick.
He will now be judging the rest.
So, but in all seriousness, the commentary was very good, very fair, and one image in particular was.
Well, sounds like it was.
So more on Scott here in a few minutes and that. Probably not. Also, real quickly here, as I go through some of our upcoming events, I want to mention one in particular. I'll let Scott weigh in on this too in that. But this Friday, they have the it's the first Friday of the month, right? So he has a art gallery, Gallery 6 up on the Santa Fe Arts District. And I was there, I don't know, it was a few weeks ago. Dave was there, and about, I don't know, 70 or 80 other people were there, and that it was very well attended. But Cliff Lawson, one of the somebody who we've had judge for us here and present for us, has his veteran project. I believe there's like 60 prints that are up over there, and that from the various military veterans that Cliff has photographed over the last several years. Very impressive. It was a really touching event that I was at a few weeks ago in that. And Scott gave an opening reception commentary and so forth that brought some of the members there tears to their eyes, and that it was super impressive. But so as a result of the success of that, they've kept that exhibit open for an extra few weeks. The last night that it's going to be there is going to be that Friday. That's being in 2 days. Yeah. And Cliff Lawson will be there in person also in that. And that goes from, I guess the main part of it goes from about 5:30 till 7 or whatever in that. But he said, Scott was saying that you could get there early. He's usually there somewhere around 4 o'clock or whatever, and it goes all the way till people will stick around till 9 o'clock or so. So that's it. Gallery 6, the Santa Fe Art District. And like I say, his Gallery 6 has won awards for the best gallery in Denver. I think it was through Westward and some other things in that. So it's worth going up there on the first Fridays anyways, but this Friday in particular with Cliff's exhibit would be a reason to go there. Did I miss anything?
We still have some beers left over from the previous event. That's an incentive.
I left plenty of them there. I had one when I was there, so it wasn't me.
It has been, and I think many of you know Cliff, but it's been a real kind of honor to host him in the gallery. He and I go back to 2015 when I moved to Colorado from the UK, clearly. And I actually joined your rival, Focus, Camera Club, because they were based very close to my house, but now they alternate here, I believe. So Cliff and I were kind of competing in the competition for kind of photography of the year kind of thing, which is great fun. But then I got struck down by an illness, and I put a book together to kind of remember that. And that's when I first experienced Cliff's portraiture up close, because he helped me put that book together. So I had a sort of deep affection for him even before this amazing kind of veterans work that he was doing. My philosophy around photography is called photo advocacy. It's actually using our photography for communities and causes that we believe in. And Cliff's the finest exponent I've seen of that. It was someone I've met personally. So to give him a space in the gallery was a real honor. And it's just turned out brilliant. His night was absolutely wonderful. It was, I don't know if you remember that program, The 70s, This Is Your Life, but it was a bit like that, honoring Cliff. The guy's in his 80s and he's still kind of trudging around in the kit doing veterans. It was amazing. We probably had, I think, 6 or 7 of these veteran subjects in the room, including a 90-year-old from Boulder who'd been in the first, Second World War. So it was fantastic. So please come along and support him. It's not about me this Friday, it's about stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And like you said, it was a magnificent night, a few weeks ago in that, so real touching. Let's see here, other upcoming events that we have, I'm gonna go through these. These are just things up through, August, so I'm gonna go through these fairly quickly in that. June 19th, so 2 weeks from tonight, Intro to Modern Family Portraiture with, member Jessica Valia. And she's gonna show examples of, I'll get to this here in a second, editing and how to do that to stand out from the crowd, as well as some basic and posing of multiple people, families in particular, and also break down the dynamics of how to work with clients in a way that produces natural looking images of people in those in the outdoor environments is sort of where she specializes. Also in studio as well. And when I say the editing, pay particular attention to. I asked her to do a little demonstration of a little part that she calls moving mountains, but it's worth watching. She's really talented at some of the not just capturing the images, but also of the editing of those, the processing of those. So it's in 2 weeks. July 3rd is our next competition night. The themes on that one are environmental portraits and high key. And so that's July 3rd. That's so we again back-to-back months of competition nights tonight and July 3rd. July 24th, we have our annual scavenger hunt meeting. This year's scavenger hunt is a little bit different than the way we've done it in the past, where you get a list of topics and go out and try and photograph those. This one is actually a 50-day photo project that started June 1st. It doesn't mean you have to have already taken those images. You can take them throughout that 50 days. But the idea is to pick a theme, something that you're interested in or something that you maybe want to become interested in. I won't go through, there's some examples that are out on the Lone Tree website as far as, what a 50-day or what a photo project is. But think of it in terms of, photographing your pet multiple times throughout those 50 days or family members throughout those 50 days. Or you could even have it be a specific building or a specific tree or some specific location, or you could even do it, just concentrate on macro photography for that period and have images from that. Another example would be all images with just using one focal length. So say go out and say, I'm going to shoot everything at 50 millimeters or something like that. Those are just some examples. There's some other examples out on the website. Take a look at that. And then the way that it'll work is you will take 4 images from there. Doesn't have to be color, black and white, doesn't have to be a mix. It can all be color, all be black and white, whatever. But you'll submit 4 images through our normal submission process. And the meeting that we have on July 24th is when when we as a group will vote, similar to like what we'll be doing here tonight as members, on the winners. First, second, and third gets prizes. I think first is a annual membership to Lone Tree Photo Club. Second is 50% discount, and third place is 5% off or $5 off of a membership. There you go. 5% off. Yeah. Right. So not huge awards, but still just fun. And the fun part of it is participating, right? Let's see, August 7th. So this 3 months in a row now we have competitions. That's an image competition that will be open, and the judge is Cheryl Opperman. And the presentation night in August is August 21st, and it's on light painting with Russell Klimas. Interesting. I've seen his work and how he does it. He's got some really interesting techniques for doing some light painting, so he'll be demonstrating some of that. Last couple things here. I've mentioned it before, so I'm not going to go into heavy detail on it, but there's a night sky photography workshop September 6th, 7th, and 8th in Eastern Colorado with Darren White. Again, I've mentioned it before, but he's really given the club members a discount as compared to what his normal price is for the night photography workshops. You can do it 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, combination of all 3 if you want, or just pick one of the 3 nights of that early part of September. And it's $99 for 1 night, $150 for 2 nights, and $229 for 3 nights. Information is out there on our website. There's a link that will bring you his website, and there's a area there to register. Let's see. The last thing I'll talk about here is just in terms of our competition themes that we have. Again, we alternate between theme competitions and open competitions. I already mentioned earlier that July 3rd, the theme competition is environmental portraits and high key. And the last theme competition will be October 2nd, and that one's going to be on light painting. So again, it makes sense to attend Russell's presentation on light painting in August, and also macro. So light painting and macro. So with that, I'm going to real quick introduction of Scott Wilson. His resume is long, so I'm going to try and make this one here go pretty quick in that. But he already mentioned a few of the things a few minutes ago in that. A multi-year finalist in the UK Landscape Photographer of the Year. He was invited to join John Fielder's Denver Photo Art Gallery in 2015 and was named Denver's Instagrammer of the Year that following year. He won this is a big award here, the Natural World and Wildlife and Open Photography, 2 awards, Open Photographer of the Year awards for the Sony World Photography Awards. I know I've asked this and I missed it before, but I think it was like 180,000 images or something like that were submitted, and he comes in first place with that. So congratulations on that. And it happened to be an image of a horse, and this is part of the advocacy that he was talking about earlier, that he's committed to as photo advocate for cancer screening based upon part of the history that he had to go through, and also on the wild horse conservation. And when it comes to photo advocacy, he believes that the visual arts have a key role to play in supporting communities and advocating causes for causes that we believe in. His book that I have is Through the Window, and it's based on photographing through his car window during that period that he was going through some of the treatments. And I think that was like almost a year, like 9 months or a year or something like that, that he was unable to go out and be exposed to the light, which is a tough situation for somebody who's a landscape photographer. So
I moved from Scotland, which has about 30 days of sunshine, to Colorado, which has 300 days of sunshine. And instantly that was a curse. But now it's good. I'm red because I'm Scottish now, not because of the treatment.
But a very inspiring book. He had to, and the other part that I wanted to, talk about advocacy and so forth. Although the proceeds from the sale of that book go to colorectal cancer research. So again, thank you for all you do as far as that goes.
The key message actually, because you're all the right age for this, is screening. So I was diagnosed stage 4 colon cancer at 48, and the screening kicks in at 50. So if the screening kicks in at 45, I would have been caught early and saved a lot of money and a lot of anguish. So that's kind of the key, is getting screened. So the law is now different in Colorado. Now your health care firms will fund screening at 45. And that all started through my time. We actually kicked off a bill in Colorado to make that happen.
Right.
So my advice is if you are eligible for free screening and don't take it, you've really got to ask yourself why.
Let's see. I talked earlier.
I have one thing.
Yeah.
My dad had cancer. And I have a hard time drinking that stuff. So there are alternatives. If you think you can't do it, if you can't drink the stuff, there are alternatives.
I took pills. They were easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the alternatives.
Now, actually,
Easy.
now you're saying what you start at 45, they'll actually, they'll send you the kit, you don't have to go in.
Yeah.
They'd rather do that than have to go in and drink fluids now, unless you start turning, right now. Get some signals, that's right. Then otherwise they'll let you do
The best test is the one you take.
Mm.
the.
The best camera is the one you're using.
That's right.
So, no, thank you, and thank you, Bruce, for that too. I already talked about his, gallery 6. He's got plenty of images up there. It's his gallery, and amazing images, by the way, that hopefully some of you will be able to see on Friday. But it was also named, Mile High City's best photography gallery through the Westward's Best of Denver Awards.
Isn't a lot of competition, got to be honest. We are very proud of what we're saying, so.
And his work has been featured in, national, international media. I mentioned, again, already the awards and so forth on that. So the list goes on and on. There's different magazines and so forth that he's been featured in. And he also serves on the board of Denver's Art District in Santa Fe. So the last thing I wanted to mention too is that, so last not but least, he's also been featured in the local news programs. I've seen him on a couple of news channels and so forth. Again, speaking about the advocacy of things he believes in. He also last year gave an incredibly inspiring presentation as the closing keynote speaker at last year's annual conference for professional photographers of Colorado. Brought everybody, to their feet and so forth and that at the end and that. So great speaking capabilities to go along with all of the other accomplishments that he's got.
Thank you, that was very kind of you. Thank you so much.
And thank you again for coming out here tonight. We're looking forward to the judging.
If you're kicking off, I will just say a few words just about photo contests. I mean, I'm not the oldest guy in the room, but I've been doing photo contests for sort of 25, 30 years. And I remember when I started, all I cared about was winning. Like, as long as I won the contest, I didn't need to learn anything. That was all it was about. And it's as you kind of grow and mature a little bit, you realize the contests where I didn't win are actually the ones I learned the most. And I took on board what the judges say. So I say that. So if I give any critiques or feedback, I want them to be met with the absolute best intention, which is I think we can all grow and learn together here as a kind of photography community. So please don't take anything as a criticism. It's just an opportunity to grow. And that's kind of how I see it. And I've learned so much from brutal judges, and I won't be brutal, but it really made me go far more than any, award kind of thing. So that's all I wanted to say. But, yeah, and I think that the other bit actually is what I've learned having a gallery and the difference between the perfect club shot and a saleable public shot. They can be very different, and they might both get 10 out of 10 for different reasons, but I will kind of look through that eye as well. So an imperfect shot might be the win. I guess that's what I'm saying. But if that happens, it's because I'm thinking through a gallery owner's eye as well as a club judge eye.
And I'm evidence that an imperfect shot could be the winner. That's when he judged last time, right? We'll go with that. Let's see. I do have most of the awards have been given out and announced before and so forth, but we do have somebody here tonight who wasn't here to receive one that was before, but this was Digital Color Honorable Mention and Dale Ralph for the image Abandoned. Congratulations. So with that, we'll go ahead and unless anybody has any other questions.
Okay, what we'll do first of all is go through all of the pictures that everybody will vote, and then we'll go through the pictures a second time, and Scott will then give us his comments and critique and judging on that. We'll go back now to the beginner, intermediate, black and white. I mean, color, excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, Ark Island.
One of the things I will talk about quite a lot during the commentary, I think, is the power of storytelling from a kind of emotional connection point of view. And I think here I saw an interesting scene, but I was kind of looking for the story that's kind of bringing it all together. So I kind of like the three, I don't know if they're old remnants of pillars or something, or they're chopped down trees, but that sort of line of three gave me a sort of focal point of interest. But I kind of wanted to know more. I wanted to know what's kind of tied it together a little bit more. And I think one of the things I will also point out as we go through this and watch for it yourself. Your eye is biologically drawn to the brightest point in the picture. You can't fail that. And in this, some of the bright areas are not necessarily where I want my eye to be, if that makes sense in terms of that storytelling potential. So my eye's taken to the top of the image with the sky in the bottom rather than drawn into the picture. So just as a kickoff, I think you said 5 to 10 is the range, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm saying we'll give that a 6.
Do you love my feather hat?
So by contrast, and the power of a title to tell a story and then to actually have the photo deliver on that story is absolutely wonderful. So, do you know, I can't even tell if that's an insect or his feathers are all over the place. I think it's his feathers, but it doesn't matter. It's just such a brilliant storytelling image. It's beautifully rendered from a color management point of view and a light management point of view. Sitting there in the third, there's a nice depth of field. The bird is absolutely sharp and in focus there. So I just thought that was a joy, and I could imagine people enjoying having that on their wall. So I'm actually having that up as a 9.
Dune shadows.
So I've been to the dunes a couple of times. I think Rand and I have nearly had heart attacks trying to get to the top of
Start, yeah.
yeah, and just an amazing place to be. And this is a really nicely pulled out composition. I love the fact you've got people in there just to give it a little bit of that kind of sense of perspective and dimension, because the dunes are just absolutely majestic. I think just what I'm going to sort of tip this into a kind of higher category for me is a little bit more in the color management. I don't know if you noticed, there's a kind of a lilac sheen to some of the sand there. And I appreciate that can come through when you're in Lightroom or Photoshop, etc. But I would sort of manage that back to a slightly more natural color, and the blue feels slightly oversaturated for me. So that was a great composition, a little bit let down by some of the color management. So I give that a 6 as well.
Glowing beauty.
Really nice scene, nice. Although it's in the dark, it's a sort of sharp, a great blue heron, I think it is there. I love this notion of sort of rim lighting. There's an image that coming up later in the advanced category that kind of is going to demonstrate what I'm talking about. When you've got this opportunity here, I think you either want to go darker and get a really full rim and maybe move around just a little bit. So
It's
you
darker on the screen.
actually, that does help. So it's good that you pointed that out. So the problem now is everybody's kind of got the same challenge, but yeah, it's rendered better on the screen here. So I like that. What I was going to say is when you've got the opportunity with that kind of really contrasting light, is to either pull out more detail or actually reduce it so it's really silhouetted. And I thought the other one had a stronger sense of the sort of material content in the bird. So I thought it was strong, nice nature shot. It might have worked better as a black and white, just as a thought, because it's already halfway there. I give that a 7.
Here's looking at you.
Really nice, sharp, kind of natural history shot. The birds are nicely rendered, good depth of field again, the sort of background out of sorts. There's something always a challenge about a man-made object that's kind of in the middle of that, and clearly having a kind of constructed sort of sharp edge post is going to slightly detract from a full natural history object, but that doesn't take away the fact these are beautiful birds. I imagine there was moments when you had more of the second bird in focus, and I was kind of toying with the idea, would this be a better shot just with the one full bird, or if you can't get both birds full? So that was kind of the thing that was holding me back. I thought the color management's gorgeous. The exposure, as I say, is really nice. Those whites are incredibly hard to manage, you know, when they're right next to black feathers. So I think you've done a great job in the color management there. I think just the scene itself could have presented more natural opportunities for you. So notwithstanding, I think give that an 8 from a kind of quality of the birds point of view.
In sync.
So I have a passion for horses. I don't know if someone's playing me a little bit here, but So there's certainly a beautiful horse, and you do see that kind of synergy between the horse and the rider. Something I notice is the horse looks slightly uncomfortable. So that's something that I notice personally knowing horses. And there's a busyness about the shot. So it's one of the challenges, as we all know in photography, is separation, and actually sort of managing your subject so it's clear of the scene, and the marquee, the trees, the kind of that stand just to the right of the horse, etc., the flower pot behind it, they're all what I would call distractions from subject matter. So it has a lot of interesting prospects. I would encourage the photographer to keep moving around that scene, just constantly move around. Don't wait for the action to come to you. And sometimes that's not possible, but if you can move around and actually create your composition rather than wait for it to come to you. So I'll give that a 6.
Job sharing.
So I love the title here, the kind of family, mom and dad, Great Blues again, building that nest. I don't know if that's out at Belmar Lake, a popular spot for a lot of Denver photographers. Beautiful shape to the scene. I love the fact both wings are, sets of wings are open. You can see the eyes. There was this kind of really lovely composition. The only thing that kind of let me down a little bit was that, again, that slight sort of color management piece. So I'm judging this almost as a natural history shot. So from that point of view, it slightly deviates from the natural colors. That the great blue heron is a little bit grayer and less silver, and the sky would be a little bit bluer and a bit less purple. So I think the sliders have just gone 10% too far to the right a little bit. So for that reason, I'll give it an 8. But I think if you worked on that naturalness, that would have been a 9.
Magic fountain.
Interesting scene. I love the fountain. Is really nice, sort of low perspective. It looks like a wide angle composition. One of the challenges, of course, with reflections is if they're not perfect, it looks a little bit wobbly. So I think there's a debate to be had about whether having a full reflection is actually adding to that scene because it's not a mirror reflection of the fountain. So I might have cropped in a little bit closer to the reeds and actually maybe accentuated the grasses from that point of view. It's an interesting subject all the same. Again, that point about bright spots. So my eye immediately goes top left, third, just with that cloud there, for example. So if you can try and dampen that sort of brightness down a little bit and bring me into the focus. Chopping trees off is always a difficult thing to do on that left-hand side as well. So I think for those reasons, it's a 6, but I think you've got a great scene you could go back to and really start to play with compositions as well.
Morning glow.
Okay, so it took me to vacations in sort of southern Spain or South America. I love the sort of palm tree scene here. Really nice sky. Looking for a little bit more balance between the top and the bottom. You know, given the title is Morning Glow, I was kind of, you know, where's the glow kind of thing. So you want a little bit more of that glow punching through. I don't know if it was just a little bit too early for the sun, and maybe a little bit more sun would have punched that out from a glow point of view. The trees on the third, so that's a sort of strong feature, sort of compositionally, and you've got that sort of sky punching behind it. But I think that's the sort of one of the more challenged shots. So I'll give that a 5.
I'm sorry, what was it?
5.
Okay. My ride.
Yeah, there was something really dynamic. It's almost like you're under the car and it's coming right over your face. So it feels like it's, I might be wrong, it feels like a wide angle that's right up against the car, and that just gives you that sense of perspective and dynamism. But it doesn't feel distorted either. I still feel like the car has been rendered in the shape that it is. And I just love the lines and the shape and the curves, etc. So I think this really stood out in the set as well as just being a different subject. I'm toying with the cropping on either side. I want to see a little bit more of the car, just that full sense of car. It might be because there was cars behind it and we're trying to sort of crop that out. So there's a challenge there, but when you're that close to the edge, I think you either need to come in more or go out. When you're just on the edge and you crop it a little bit, that just frustrates the viewer a tiny bit. But I don't want to take away from that kind of really strong sense of dynamism in the shape. So I think I had that as an 8, please.
Nature's Top Model Strut.
So, I know the name of this bird and I'm going to forget it, but I've shot these birds before. Beautifully sharp. You can absolutely see that eye looking at you. The bright areas are really well managed. There's nothing kind of blown out from that point of view. The eye and the head, if you like, is on the third. I think there's a kind of sense of where is the bird? That red is a little bit confusing. So is that an unnatural object that's actually reflecting red? There's not many reds that would do that unless it's a fall scene, in which case I'd like to see a little bit more natural fall color. So, but I thought the bird itself was beautifully shot and sharp. You've got a few little wet drops on her back there as well. So that made it strong. But so a nice, strong natural history shot. Give that an 8.
I'm sorry, what was the score?
8.
8. On reflection.
Really nice composition. I just found my eyes kind of starting and then just very pleasantly leading into that sharp mount in the background. Look at the depth, the sort of sharpness from front to back here. That's very well sort of rendered depth of field. Even the clouds are kind of mirroring that channel of activity. So you've got the clouds going, everything's basically leading towards that sharp mountain in the valley at the back there. The water's well rendered, the sky's well rendered. There's nothing blown out about the sky, which is a challenge when you're dealing with that much shadow in the foreground. And you've got that lovely kind of sunlight breaking through to the trees on the right, and that beautiful kind of rich dark green there. So this is a very simple landscape, but it's very powerful. I can see people wanting that on their walls. So that was up there as a 9 for me.
Playing with lunch.
Really, again, really nice natural history shot. The timing's absolutely fantastic. With I don't know if the fly's been caught and then bounced up to go down the throat. I mean that's often the way there. But I think these are bee eaters, so you're telling the full story there. You know, it's the name of the bird, and it's actually performing its action. So really powerful from that point of view. I like that kind of low angle, so you're seeing the sort of full action going on there. The branch seems to complement the scene. I'm a little bit unsure about that second branch coming down the bottom, cutting the tail. Not sure how you avoid that other than moving around a little bit, but that was a sort of slight distraction from the scene and giving that sense of separation that we're talking about. So I know you can't fix that in this picture. I'm just talking about if you're actually in the scene, being very aware of distracting elements. So I think that's a really strong kind of top half, but the bottom half made it an 8.
Read all about it.
I like the sort of quirky storytelling title here. We've got nice sunlight and that mountain in the background. Reeds in the foreground. So there's a kind of a landscaper's eye going on here in terms of trying to tell a sort of landscape story with a strong foreground. There are some technical challenges, I think, in terms of the horizons clearly going down from left to right. That's something that's so easy to fix. So, you know, just don't allow yourself to present images that are on a slope in that way. There's also, I think it's a tiny cloud, but just above the trees on the left, it looks like a dust spot. And even if it is a tiny cloud, I would just remove it. So it just avoids any sense of confusion about whether that is a dust spot or a cloud, because it's just slightly distracting. And the sky itself was quite bright. So I think there's a lot of potential here in terms of having that landscape eye. You've got the mountain in a nice place, etc., and a sense of composition. But I think that's probably a 5 at this stage with room to grow.
Skylights.
Yeah, I mean, something about the Northern Lights just absolutely punch out, and I mean the colors are just so extraordinary. I think they've really rendered the sky nicely here. It's a challenge to tackle a long exposure, not have moving stars, etc. So they've sort of kept that under 24 seconds. The color management is good. Clearly, there are garish colors with the Northern Lights, and despite that, it's a sort of very well managed scene. One thing is, it's almost like this wonderful background looking a little bit for a foreground. And I think what would take that into the 9s and 10s is actually having some kind of structure, be it a lake or a building or a tree or something in the foreground that just actually makes the Northern Lights an awesome backdrop to a picture rather than just the sole focus of the picture. So as I say, well rendered. I think a strong foreground would have made that a 9, but it's an 8 for me.
Sunset at Bamani.
Yeah, again, nice, very attractive colors. Everybody loves a sunset. It looks like there's a little bit of mist in there as well, just at the base of the trees. Really well managed light in the foreground. Nothing's really blown out apart from the sun. I know there's lots of debates about whether you're allowed blown out areas or not. The modern thinking appears to be that, you know, you can have a blown out sun as long as nothing else is. I feel it's slightly a picture of two halves. So there's kind of like the tree on the left and the sun are slightly competing for my attention, if that makes sense. So that kind of made me want to just understand what was the real focal point of this picture. Is it the sun? Is it the tree? And maybe adjusting your position just might have made that a little bit more prominent from that point of view. So I think we'll give that a 7, please.
3 is a crowd.
Yeah, this is a joy, and the power of 3 is just such a wonderful thing in photography. Absolutely captivates the viewer. Really nicely rendered sky. You've got these birds and sort of really sharp. You can see every inch of the bird, and the sky is really nicely managed. I'm assuming natural skies at this point rather than dropped in. There's one later that I think may have been dropped in, but this is a beautifully rendered scene all the same. Now, part of me wants to move the third bird just to make it just perfectly symmetrical. And that's just a little niggle I've got. If you're a purist and you just want to present it as you saw it, then full marks to you for that. It's beautiful. I think it probably would have been a 10 if that had been like the traditional 3 ducks on the wall, you know, where they're absolutely perfect. So just have a think about that. If you want to cheat the viewer a little bit and get an extra point, then you can do that. But for now, that's a 9. I'm marking these, but I'm not sort of thinking, oh, beginner, advanced, etc. I'm just marking as if the best photo in the beginners is a 10, so I'm marking up to that. And the best photos in advanced is a 10, so I'm marking up to that. That's my philosophy. That's just how it's working. Okay? So a 9 in beginner might not be the same as a 9 in advanced.
Right.
I'm just saying that for everyone's benefit. So I'm sure different judges have different ways of approaching.
Too early to sail.
Yeah, we want to be there, don't we? Get on that boat and sail off into the, well, if it's too early, it's going to be sailing off into the sunrise, isn't it? So I love that sense of mist. So you know that the sun is coming. There's that mist emerging around the boat. The boat itself is nicely rendered on the third. I can see the top and the bottom of the mast. Don't you hate it when someone just cuts the top or bottom of the mast off? So that all worked very well. I don't know if are they dust spots?
Or is that just dust spots on my computer?
Right. I think there might be a couple of dust spots in there.
Yeah.
Either way, there's a couple of things to tidy up. And so I think I'm looking for a little bit more punch, contrast, drama, maybe a little bit earlier or a little bit later. You might actually get more light. So if it was, I mean, the colors you get at night are extraordinary. So if you'd gone out an hour earlier, you might have actually got more sunlight, believe it or not. So I think that's a 6, but there's clear some compositional skill there to keep going from.
We've got 3, 3 9s.
17, if it helps.
17 is
3 is a
3 is a crowd.
By who?
You.
Oh, by me. Sorry, I think. Sorry, yeah.
No, yeah, what it is the members had a tie, but then the judge breaks the tie. on
Okay.
the member.
The judge's score was the same on both of them.
Wow, this is tough, isn't it? So I'm going to go which one I think would do better in the gallery. That's the one left. It's interesting to compare the the public
Yes.
vote and the single vote.
Everything matched up on both of those.
Yeah,
And those ones may have been like the tiebreaker may have been for second versus third.
yeah.
First place may still be same as yours.
Was three of a kind quite high in the club vote as well? I'm just curious.
You have a three crowd,
Yeah,
top five.
okay. So you do know what you're talking about. Okay.
He'll give the full thing later on, but good question.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna go to advanced color. And this is Born to Win.
Born to Win. There's something very powerful about the centered on horse. It's a very dynamic kind of feel. The horse is kind of in my face. I can see that glint of kind of aggression in his eye. That horse is pissed, by the way. So, you know, you kind of get that sense. There's something about the rendering that's not quite gelling with me. I don't know if it's down like at the bottom. I don't, it's either a deliberate effect or there's some artifacts going on at the bottom. And then it's created that kind of, I don't know if it's in order to create the darkness of the sky, the kind of, you know, masked the horse and then made the back really, really dark, but it's not gone all dark. So I'm seeing enough detail to bother me, if that makes sense. So I think the horse itself is really, really powerful and it deserves a little bit more refinement around the body. So I think we'll give that an 8 just because it's got this kind of eye-catching energy that just grabs you, but the technical piece in the background needs a bit more work.
Botanic double exposure.
Yeah, there's something very beautiful about this. I could actually see this hanging in the wall and drawing people in, and they're kind of, you know, looking around the image for the story. There's that kind of swirling completeness of following the line. So it's sort of beautifully rendered from that point of view. So that was a really sort of powerful graphic image. You could almost see that being adopted as a print and sort of replicated, a print on fabric, I mean, and sort of replicated from that point of view. So I think it's some clever technique there. It's very attractive to the eye. I think that's a strong 8 in what is a strong set of images.
Okay. Calculating.
Yeah, this is a power shot, and there's a shot later I'm going to compare to this, but there's the first, the lioness, which I think it is a lioness, is absolutely beautifully rendered. She's in perfect focus. You've got that eye. You can see the contemplation. You just know she's maybe watching prey. She could be watching her baby, but in my head, she's watching prey and she's contemplating. She's low down, but where she is part of the story. It's not a distraction, and I want you to hold that thought for later, because she's just beautifully shrouded in those grasses, and they're very much telling the context of where she is. I love the context of concept rather of wildscape, where you actually feel this sense of where an animal is and where it belongs, and you get that story from this. So I thought that was beautifully reproduced. Really strong natural history shot with a story. So that's got a 9 for me.
Cape May Light.
Yeah, again, really nice landscape composition here. Really well thought out. I love that kind of curved line round to the lighthouse, and the lighthouse itself is just beautifully rendered on, let's call it the horizon. It's not really a horizon. And then it's beautifully kind of muted color in the sky. It's not overdone at all. There's nothing oversaturated. These just feel like really, really sort of carefully rendered colors. And then you've got that perfect reflection of the lighthouse in the lake there. Is that your screen?
That might be my screen.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm on a dust spot prowl, and there is none in the actual image. So.
My computer screen's dirty.
Yeah. So again, I saw this. This is a beautiful, calming, peaceful storytelling landscape that I think lots of people would enjoy having on their wall and just sort of dwell into it when they want a sense of peace. So that was a 9 for me as well.
Charging hippo at dusk.
Yeah, again, same kind of effect that you had with that first horse, where you've got this really dynamic, centered on, looking straight in the eye. I mean, the eye contact is really quite visceral almost. You feel this, hippo looking straight at you. There's real power in the light and shade around the hippo. Lots of detail around the face. I did wonder if it had been put through a kind of topaz type imaging enhancer, which kind of just sometimes creates this sort of muddy color. So I just felt a little bit like the horse and one of the heron that we saw earlier. There's a slight darkness to the sky that not the sky, the water, that I almost wanted to be darker or lighter. So just thinking about the contrast there and working on that. So really strong for the hippo. I wanted a stronger sense of context. And a little bit like we said earlier with the reflection. So I either want the full reflection or maybe just cut it a little bit further so it's not just feel like it's just missing that edge there. But for the quality of the actual hippo itself, I think it's a strong 8.
Draped in light.
This is again a beautiful scene. The light's absolutely wonderful. I want to go along there in a canoe and a paddle. There's a very famous film, isn't there, when they go through those trees. The colours in the background of it, it's light sort of coming through there, but it's beautifully rendered. A really strong storytelling shot. I'm trying to see just how sharp the kind of draping vines or whatever they are. I think there's a sort of softness in some of them. Which is a little bit bothersome. But so I kind of want to understand exactly where my focal point is. But as far as sort of broad composition, storytelling, scene, a place that I want to go and is very inviting, that's a strong image from that point of view. And I think that's an 8.
Endless summer.
This is actually one of the top images. There's something, it's probably quite a simple image to a lot of people's minds in terms of, it's a postcard scene. But it's been so well thought through from the positioning on the curve of these 3 surfers on that bottom right. And there's just interest all the way through it. You've got the person walking through the middle, wondering what's going on, the people at the top that are sort of enjoying their walk. It just gives this sense of following the composition through the whole scene. And I just got this sense of kind of awe of the vastness of the ocean, the tininess of these people. It's that same perspective we got that earlier in the sand dunes image, where you've got the people really giving you that sense of perspective. You take those people out and you don't know if that's 2 foot of water or 2 miles of water. So it's a great storytelling image. So I'm giving that a 9.
In mass.
Yeah, there's this sort of sense of chaos, isn't there, as the birds are all kind of taking off. I don't know if there's been a loud clap and they've all come off at once, or an eagle is about to tear through them, but you do get that sense of either that chaos or a migration in full flow, etc. So that sort of wonderful sense of, this is more like a pattern than an image. There is no focal point. And I actually think in this sense, that's part of its charm, is it's actually created this sort of almost homogeneous mass of birds. There is a kind of softness about the scene. Some of the processing and the sky colors is a little bit slightly saturated. So I think interesting whole kind of concept pattern shape. I think a little bit more natural color management in the sky could have brought some more natural history feel into it. And there's a kind of general softness to say about the bird. So I'm going to give that a 7.
Fire above the dunes.
This is, I don't know if it's the same author as the Lighthouse, but it's got that same feel. It's got this beautifully muted sense of color palette, very, very strong compositionally. That mountain, they're just perfectly on the third, just shrouded in that cloud above it. And then you've got this front to back kind of joy of the ripples in the sand, and this kind of torment of the more like waves in the middle, and you hit that kind of craggy rock at the back. So it's just a really thoughtful, well-constructed composition. It's quite brave as well. I mean, that's not a regular kind of dimension. That's a very sort of tall image. Probably works very well for social media, to be honest. But I just thought, again, beautifully constructed. It is competing with the lighthouse. So just have that thought. If you are the author that's put both images in, you're competing with yourself. So if you're not, then you guys, you've got competition. So, so I'll give that a 9 as well.
Rage,
Yeah, really nice shape to this. There's a kind of poeticness around the leaves and that kind of curve as it goes up to the middle and down to the right, and sort of follow the leaf up to the left. I like the color management, that kind of muted greens, if you like, that sort of deep, rich green, and then this white that's popping without blowing out. So there's sort of very powerful color management there. There is. And we've seen this a couple of times where the background's slightly confusing. So I'm seeing kind of dots up at the top, and I almost want to see what they are to bring them into the story or eliminate them. So just have a think about how the background is either complementing or detracting from the image. But basically for me, it's taking my attention away from that subject matter in the foreground. So I think that's a 7 for me.
King of the Perch.
Yeah, beautifully rendered image. There's a beautiful, sharp little bird. It looks like it may be a species of kingfisher. I don't know the bird. Beautiful eye focus again, that lovely depth of field. So the bird is absolutely sharp, and you've got this sort of very out of focus background, which is lovely. It's a strong natural history image. It might be missing just that sense of quirkiness. And again, if you presented the kingfisher from before, you're competing with yourself, because that had a slightly stronger storytelling power. If you're not, it's a strong natural history image, and I'll give it an 8. Okay.
Local gossip.
7. Okay, no, it's a nice scene, kind of poetic. I love that kind of painting feel. Really strong sense of foreground, midground, background. I wish the clouds weren't clipped. 7. Thank you.
Mildred's third eyelids are shut.
Gorgeous storytelling. You can see this being the theme of a children's book or becoming a sort of cartoon series. These kind of angry birds all playing with each other, and you've got that storytelling power as well. Beautifully rendered, really powerful, everything's sharp, so give that an 8.
Mom, we're not tired yet.
Lovely storytelling power. Again, that appeals to the kids in terms of that. The 2 little birds, you just want that third one to turn around and just, match his brothers and sisters. Mom sort of looking over them. There's clutter in the background. If you take that out, you've got a much more powerful storytelling image that talks about the subject. So I'd say that's a strong 6, pushing for 7, but we'll give it a 6. So.
Morning Farage.
This is a power image. There's a real, and again, there's a bison or buffalo shot later that inevitably comes into competition. This has a sense of power, struggle, dimension, dynamism. It's really powering through there. The sky is very powerful. It just lends itself to the whole image, and you've got that sense of dynamism as the snow is sort of powering on his feet, and I can see his eye. The light on the fur might be a tiny bit overworked. I just want it to, it feels like it should be a little bit darker, but it's a beautiful image, and I think that's a 9 because it's got such a strong storytelling power.
Pikes Peak flyby.
Okay, they talk about the decisive moment. This feels like a decisive moment, really strong compositionally. And it tells the whole story there. You've got the jets or Thunderbirds, whatever they are, sort of flying in front of Pikes Peak. You've caught the moment perfectly. The planes are all sharp. Strong compositionally, strong photographically. I think a lot of people would want that as a kind of memorabilia piece from a military point of view. So I think that's a strong image. Give that an 8.
Stormy evening.
Strong sky that slightly wants the foreground to match up in terms of that power, dimension, and color quality. The sky's really got loads of energy and movement and power in it, and those colors. There's just a little bit of color lacking in the Garden of the Gods kind of structures below that. So I think that's where it's almost like an image of two halves. I realize it's difficult at that time of day. A graduated filter would probably help you in terms of managing the color at the top half and bringing more out to the bottom, so it looks more like a full image from that point of view. So give that a 7. Is this the pace you want now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sunrise.
Okay, beautifully rendered image. I have a hunch it might be the same as the lighthouse people from before, not sure. But it's got that kind of, again, that consistent sense of muted colors. So one thing I hate is oversaturated colors. And these are really well managed. There's a lovely sense of foreground here, really powerful use of wide angle. Despite what I've just said, maybe a tiny bit more punch in the sky would have just given it some dynamism, and maybe a little bit more water motion around the actual foreground as well. So you almost want to get your sense that the photographer got his feet wet for this shot, and I'm not sure that he or she did. So give that an 8.
The Lookout.
Okay, great storytelling shot as well. The African buffalo by itself would have been a really sort of strong portrait image. You've got the eye contact there, nicely rendered, and then you've got that wonderful storytelling component of the bird that really fills that out, and it's been very nicely composed. I don't know if you've moved around to kind of create that sense of symmetry, if you like, in the bird. It's clearly squawking at the same time, which just adds that whole story. So I thought that was a really nice, strong natural history image that told a fuller story than just the one you would normally get. So give that an 8.
The Searcher.
Again, nice, strong natural history image. It's a good picture of a great blue heron. I think in order to take it into the 8s and 9s, we're looking for a little bit of behavior. So there's not actually, a sense of, activity going on. What's the heron up to? What's its day about to be? It's simply sort of standing there. And if it had been close to the water looking for fish or catching a fish, that, as I say, would have taken it in. But it's a perfectly respectable, well rendered, beautifully light managed image of a great blue heron. So we'll give that a 8.
Tiptoe.
Yeah, this one really, really pops. There's something nice. There's a little bit more energy there because the bird is moving. The title kind of adds a little bit of dimension there in terms of the fact this thing is prowling around, trying, looking for its breakfast, if you like. That glow from the sunrise or sunset, it really makes the image pop. And you've clearly managed the light very well in terms of there's a lot of bright light behind the bird, and yet we've still got detail and sharp focus on the bird in the foreground. So that felt strong from that point of view. So we'll give that an 8 as well.
Water Drop Fashion Show.
This is really clever stuff. I don't care if it's being put together with 2 different shots. It's just a really powerful, and whether it is or not, I'm not judging. I actually don't know. But it's really powerfully put together. There's a lot of creative vision to create that shot. There's the creativity that's going on. You're not just catching a moment, you've actually considered that in advance and then created it. You've gone out to get it. And I think there's a real power for that. I can see that on a gallery wall. I can see it intriguing visitors who want to know more about the story. So that's a power shot. I'll give that a 9.
Okay, you have quite a few. Yeah.
6 9s.
6
Yeah, I'll pick the droplet. Okay.
Okay.
Beautifully rendered. Love those autumn colors. It's so difficult to manage. So autumn yellows with those kind of autumnal sort of beige colors, etc. It's really nicely done. Gorgeous sky. I'm kind of debating on the trees whether they're a little bit too clipped. So they're either framing the image beautifully or they're a little bit too clipped. And I was I think veering towards a little bit too clipped. So that's giving me an 8. And again, I'm elevating the scoring base here. So that might have been a 9 in advanced or a 10 in beginners. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Night Out at the Theater.
Again, an absolutely intriguing image. You just want to know what's going on there. I can't tell if she was actually there. She's been popped in afterwards. If it's two images blended, etc. But regardless, it's incredibly powerful storytelling image. That sumptuous kind of red velvet you get from theatre movie seats is really powerful. And as I say, that just intriguing pair of legs that doesn't belong there. It makes it a very strong storytelling, intriguing image. So we'll give that a 9.
Palazzo Biscari.
Again, this oozes quality. It's just beautifully rendered. I don't know the location, but I want to visit it. It has that kind of Gaudi-esque feel of the kind of almost like dripping staircase, and it's just been beautifully conveyed in the image. The angle, I bet you've just moved like inch down, inch down, inch down, inch down until you get that perfect angle. And it's been beautifully done. So colors are really nicely rendered. Nothing's oversaturated. I love the light coming through the window. Again, it's not overly bright, and it looks even better on the screen here. So I think that's also a 9.
Winter's Moonset over Hornbeck Homestead.
Beautiful scene, gorgeous kind of opportunity there. Really nicely rendered Milky Way, nice managed color in the sky. You almost wish it was the kind of full on arc all the way over the barns there. And I think if it had been that kind of full arc, that it might even be a 10. But it just feels like it's a really strong right-hand side and a slightly more challenged left-hand side. So it's kind of an image of two halves from that point of view. So I'll give that an 8.
Would you judges award on this?
We skip this one?
I'll choose if you want.
No, the pro people, they don't care about things.
You don't get points for it, so.
Okay, we're going to go to beginner, intermediate, black and white. Breakaway.
Okay, really interesting scene. I think we'd all love to be there. What an opportunity to be in, I suppose it's the Antarctica, but it's a little bit soft. There's kind of the sharpness missing. So it's basically out of focus. So that sort of makes it a bit of a challenge. And I love the notion of breakaway and sort of building the story around that. And then I want to move around the boat wherever I am to just give me more options on the composition. So it's a little bit kind of centered on from that point of view. So think about, I'm not religious about the rule of thirds, but I think it might have actually worked here. So just have a think about the composition from that point of view. But the actual image quality itself is do you agree? It's a little bit.
Yeah, it looks a little soft.
Yeah, so-
Because I was looking on this screen thinking maybe it was up there, but
Yeah,
I think.
so we'll give it a 6 because it's in the beginners category.
Okay, chaotic flow.
Yeah, nicely rendered, long exposure there. I get where the author's coming from in the name, but I don't actually see chaos. I see this kind of beautiful shape actually emerging as the water kind of follows its way around. So the image title actually threw me a little bit. I see a sense of pattern, shape, movement, and all kind of coming together nicely. So it's a really well rendered long exposure. It looks like it's daytime because you've got that slightly brighter kind of edge at the left and then slight bright spots on the right as well. So that maybe brings it down a tad. If you can, shooting waterfalls at dusk and dawn is an absolute joy because you'll just get so much more exposure out of it. So have a think about time of day. So we'll give that a 7.
Cohabitation.
Okay, I suspect this is the same trip as the first one because it's got that same slightly blurry image quality. It's an amazing scene. You've got all these seals and cormorants and probably puffins in there as well. I mean, what an absolute privilege to see all that up close. I actually like the composition where you've got this kind of craggy rock in the foreground and it complements the mountainscape at the background. So that there's an absolute joyous scene in front of you there, but it is a little bit lacking in sharpness. So think about image quality in terms of making sure you're focusing sharply on something to bring that through. Either that or it's a very small part of a much larger image and it's lost definition. So that's a possibility. We'll give that a 6 as well.
Here we go.
Okay, again, I suspect this is the same event as the one we saw earlier. Beautiful horse, nicely rendered horse, clearly sort of in motion with the rider there. But it's the background again. It's this challenge around getting objects separated. And that means either waiting for them to move or you moving around. So the background distracts from the foreground there, and there's not enough shallowness of depth of field to make that not a distraction. So we'll give that a 7.
Illuminating the barn dance.
Yeah, this was a really interesting kind of storytelling piece there. You've got this light that's swinging between the fans. There's all sorts of shapes going on with the roof raptors and beams, etc. So it was a really interesting kind of documentary scene. I can imagine that being part of a kind of Western Americana documentary show kind of thing. So it was powerful from that point of view. So maybe a little bit more storytelling. Clearly the fan clips at the bottom is a slight distraction from that point of view, and at the top. So give that a 7.
Just lying around.
Yeah, it's a nice sharp image. You've got the line in focus. If you compare that to the line we saw earlier, where it was just all this dynamic tension, you know the line's just waiting to get into its prey. This guy, I think he's just having a bad day, and he looks a little bit annoyed. and he's like, right, really, another photo? So there's that kind of waiting for the right moment. And there, the grasses, rather than conveying that sense of hiding and waiting for his prey, are actually a slight distraction from his face. So just consider that. And so give that a 6.
Majestic stare.
This is dynamic. It's right in your face. He's on top of you. It's a little bit like the car scene, where you're almost under the car and this thing is coming in on top of you and you feel small. I mean, no matter how big that bird is, you feel like it's dominating you somehow. He's staring right into your eyes. He's ready. He's ready to fight you. And there's something really powerful and dynamic about that. It's a close-up. I don't know if it's a wild scene or a domestic scene, so that's sort of partly in my mind, but we'll give that an 8. It's a strong scene.
Make my day.
Yeah, nice render of a natural history shot of a jackal. There's a little bit of behavior there, isn't there? Because you're getting that sense of a hyena, sorry. You're getting that sense of the kind of the laughing going on. So that sort of wildscape piece I was talking about earlier, I think I either want to get right into his face and really, really see every single wrinkle from a kind of portrait point of view, or see a little bit more context from a wildscape point of view. So it's a slightly in between shot from that point of view, but it's a strong natural history image. I'll give that an 8.
My other ride.
Yeah, strong, and everyone had a chuckle there. You know, there's a strong kind of comical sense to this. It's quirky. In terms of the storytelling, that other ride piece, the composition is actually really strong. There's really sharp focus on the logo there, and then the sort of depth of field. You get this, you know, power of the stitching. So you actually see that handcrafted quality coming through the car. So I thought that was a powerful storytelling image. But we'll give that an 8.
Pancho and Steph.
Yeah, this is one of the strongest images in the contest, actually. It has such a storytelling power. The connection between the rider and the horse is absolutely palpable. It's different, say, from the competing rider before. This guy knows and loves his horse. I'm not saying the other guy doesn't love his horse, but you just feel it. You get that sense coming through the touch. The horse is not disturbed at all. He's very comfortable with the rider. You get that sense of craftsmanship coming through the saddle. Usually, I hate shots that aren't eye level or below, but there's somehow I'm getting even more powerful storytelling because this is from above, and you've got this natural setting. I don't know if that's, I mean, it looks like sort of low level cactus or that type of foliage that's round about it. So that's really strong. I'll give that a 9.
A periscope depth.
Yeah, lovely storytelling image as well. It took a little bit of a while to work it out, but you know, and then you see the trunk, and you just got this sense of the elephants. And I think there's actually 2 elephants, isn't there, side by side? So two periscopes. It's kind of a brave cropping, real kind of wide letterbox there. It makes me curious what context has been taken out of it, actually. Would that have distracted from the scene? Because I might have got a sense more from that. If this is black and white, it's a little bit grey. So I would just encourage you to sort of think about the contrast and, think about, what is the pure black and what is the pure kind of white element of this. And so there's a slight sort of monochromatic feel that could have been helped with more contrast. So we'll give that an 8.
Pool and fountain.
Interesting kind of dynamic composition, another wide angle. You've got the sort of strong foreground with the plank there, the leading lines of the building behind it. I think this is the same fountain area that we saw earlier with the reeds in front of it. I think that's the fountain there at the back, actually. So it's an interesting scene. The sky's punching a little bit too bright in areas. It's not a strong composition as some of the other ones. I think we'll give that a 6.
Regal Hall of Silence.
Yeah, by contrast, this is a beautiful kind of storytelling architectural image. You just sort of want to wander through there. Lovely sort of statue symmetry on the left. The leading lines are gorgeous. The way that the ceiling has been captured. If it was a tiny niggle, I'd just want the bright lights on the right to be a tiny bit less bright. And it shouldn't be too difficult to manage that down a little bit. That's me being a little bit fussy because it's actually a beautiful image. Again, I could see people wanting to hang this on their wall, and I could see the tourist shop at this place wanting to sort of present that as a finished image. So really nice, strong black and white. I think that's a 9 as well.
Rolls on.
Yeah, it's a kind of decent documentary shot of the Rolls-Royce emblem, if you like, and that spirit of ecstasy. There you go. Yeah.
Is that what that is?
What did I say?
You didn't say it.
Okay. Right.
You said it was an M. So-
Okay. Right. But it's nice. And if I had a Rolls Royce, I would probably want that on my wall. So it's a kind of strong documentary shot from that point of view. I think I'm looking for a little bit more storytelling in there. And that bright line just next to the angel is slightly distracting. Just a little bit blown out. So give that an 8.
Saw Better Days.
Yeah, really strong storytelling as well. The saws are sort of really powerful feature in the middle of the image, as you can tell. That kind of old dilapidated building again takes you back. You can see it in the same Western Americana exhibition that we were talking about earlier. The windows slightly distracting. It's a little bit too bright. Same with the ceiling rafters. Top left. I think if we sorted that, it might be an 8, but it's a 7 for now.
Snowed In.
Again, power of titling, really strong storytelling. You can imagine the kind of torment or anguish of if this is a non-seasonal snow situation, then you can imagine the anguish of the birds. It might simply be abandoned nest in winter, but either way, there's that kind of strong storytelling power. I wish the things weren't clipped on the left and at the top of the scene. I want to be able to sort of step back and see a fuller scene or a tighter scene. There's kind of 2 ways of going there. I would probably have clipped it just to the left of the second branch in rather than where we are now. But that's just my choice. I think it's an interesting image, so give it a 7.
Winter's Long Shadows.
Yeah, I really like this. There's something very strong graphic quality about it. The trees, despite being sort of perceivably chaotic, just have this wonderful pattern effect about them. And then you've got these amazingly straight lines that go across there. I have to assume that they're natural lines for the purpose of judging, and that just really works to bring it in. It almost had this kind of pencil drawing quality. It's a really strong image. So give that an 8, please.
Okay, we have 2 9s. For tiebreaker here, it's Poncho and Steph and Regal Hall of Silence.
They're both really strong images. And from a technical quality point of view, they are equal. I'm gonna give it to number 10 for its storytelling power. I think I can get more character and storytelling out of that image. The other one is a beautifully rendered shot though, so but we'll go for the one on the left as the winner.
Not sure. Okay, we're going to go to advance. Black and white, confident.
Okay, I really got a sense of confidence and quality, seeing a little bit more detail here. It was that kind of choice we had earlier about whether you go full kind of rim lighting or a little bit more detail. I like the way that this light has been managed beautifully. We'll give that an 8 in advanced.
Denver,
Nice, interesting composition in the building in the center there. I think the infrared, it's either a filter or it's an infrared camera. The blue's gone a little bit too dark for me, and the whites, the contrast is heavy, so I'm going to give that a 7. It's an interesting scene, but I just think it needs to be softened a little bit.
early morning fog.
This is power image, absolutely amazing storytelling. The mist is fantastic. I just love the sort of sheep coming into scene, the old kind of gnarly country road. There's just everything about that just oozes story. In every corner you look at, there's a story to tell. So that's at least a 9. I think I'm going to give that 10. Mhm.
Face in the sand.
Based on that really nice sort of technical approach, lovely use of the kind of medium length exposure, that softness coming through and the ripples. I think the face in the sand is slightly misleading as a title because I'm spending my time trying to discern the face as opposed to just appreciating the gorgeousness of the image. So it might work in your title actually. It's a beautiful image, and sometimes they say, you know, finding faces and things can be a distraction. So just enjoy the image for what it is. I'd give that a strong 8.
Great blue storm.
Yeah, there's again a real power image here. The light is so dramatic on the head, and I'm not sure if I'm genuinely not sure if it's the real sky. It does have a real sort of power image for it. There might be some filtering going on that's made it, but as a dramatic image that I think that would appeal to the public, it's very powerful there. It has left me a few questions from a processing point of view. Give that an 8.
I have one eye on you.
Strong storytelling image. I mean, the seeing that sharp eye and all that clutter, you know, brilliant kind of sharp shooting from a photography point of view. I love the depth of field. It's really kind of got that out of focus foreground, and then just homing into that the predator on the hunt. So really strong image from that point of view. So give that an 8.
Looking in, looking out.
Yeah, I love the storytelling image here. I thought there was a real kind of 1940s, 1950s character to it. And then I saw the paper cup on the table. And I just wanted you to move the cup. And I think that would just really, really change the image. And it doesn't take anything to walk in there and move it out of the way and put an old flowery teacup in its place or something. I think that would have taken it from a 7 to an 8 or even a 9, but it's a 7 for me.
Moonshine.
Nice image. I could see that again. It has that kind of embroidery quality that we talked about earlier with the double exposure shot. Sort of nice sort of mirror image. A little bit kind of straight on and centered. Perhaps some people might like that. I think to me, I was just wanting a little bit more storytelling from that point of view. But you've rendered the moon really well. Exposure management with the moon is just near impossible. So it's a great job there. So we give that an 8. I think more storytelling would have knocked it up a bit.
Morning monkey.
Great exposure on the monkey. I really love the power. It had that kind of almost 1950s natural history feel to it. It's really strong. Beautiful light. The branch being chopped on the right made me think it's a zoo. Now, whether it is or isn't doesn't matter. Just if you just take that angle out, then suddenly you've got a pure natural history shot as opposed to a potentially zoo shot. 8.
Natural canopy.
Really intriguing image. It looks kind of like dark hedges in Ireland or something like that, but just the sort of dripping effect is just absolutely captivating from a compositional point of view. I can't actually work out if it's snow or just the way it's been processed and rendered, but it's a real sort of image. You could see that being a very sort of powerful Victorian Christmas card, and you've got the 2 people in the background there to sort of finish off the composition. So we'll give that a 9, please.
Pikes Peak view.
sort of classic Pikes Peak view. It's hard to get an original image here. It's really nicely rendered. I could see lots of people coming to the gallery and loving that shot and buying it, putting it on their wall. Is it a standout of Pikes Peak? I think we're looking for something a little bit different from that point of view. The sky looks slightly incongruous from a color point of view. I know it's black and white, but I sort of felt there was a slight kind of almost like mauveness there. So I don't know if there's been some color sliding a little bit. But as I say, beautifully rendered Pikes Peak, but needs slightly different composition to punch into the nines. So we'll give that an 8.
Praying for a bath.
Nice natural history shot. Again, a little bit like we said an image before. I either want to go really tight into the face and get a far stronger portrait, or pull back and see a bit more context of what the hog is doing or contemplating or moving away from. I like the storytelling power of the title, praying, because clearly he's kneeling. But so it's a strong natural history shot. Give that an 8.
Primate professor.
Similarly, if you compare this to the monkey before, which is inevitable when there's two monkeys in it, the kind of use of light and dark and shade on the other one just give a far more dramatic kind of feel to the finished image. This is a nice, straightforward rendering of a what is it, a baboon? So it's a strong, decent black and white. I'm looking for a little bit more storytelling. If you can get that guy to look at you straight on, you've just gained 1 or 2 points in terms of that connection with the camera. So that's something to consider, as well as how you might actually attract his attention to look at you. So we'll give that a 7.
Reaching into the deep.
Nice, interesting image. I'm sort of fascinated by these swamp areas. There's lovely use of curves on those branches. I think a little bit more depth of field, or less depth of field actually, would have just created less distraction with the branches, the trunks at the back. So it's not one of the stronger compositions here. So we'll give that a 6.
Rounding up
This
cattle.
was so close. The silhouette is absolutely gorgeous. That cowboy riding with the horse. If that cow had just been slightly before him or slightly afterwards, you've got a very different image. And ideally, the cow would have been probably 3 steps in front, like just on that third, and that would have been a 9. As it is, it's really strong. Go back, do it again next year, and it'll be brilliant. But that's an 8 for now.
Snowbound bison.
Yeah, strong image. And if we hadn't seen the bison before, this might get more credit. But when you start to compare these things, it's inevitable. It's a competition after all. But it's missing that dynamic energy of the other bison. He looks it's a little bit like the lion that we saw earlier. It's like another photo. So he's not. I don't feel the sense of struggle, torment, weather, beaten. It's a bison in the snow. So it's 7.
The uphill.
Beautifully composed. Again, we're getting this sort of sense of scale from above. That shadow on the hiker is absolutely stunning. The steps behind him, really strong composition. This feels, it's got that sort of painterly quality. This is something you would compose and then try and create. So I think that's a 9.
This is tough.
Beautiful image, lots of sort of quirkiness about it, a real joy. I actually get more joy than toughness. I was actually seeing the elephant enjoying life rather than being tough. So just consider that in your titling. Strong, nicely done, straightforward natural history shot. So give it 7.
Tivoli.
Similar to the previous kind of infrared feel, I think slightly, beautiful light on Tivoli itself. Really strong building. It has that slightly, is that the real sky or not feel, because there's such a sharp contrast with the building. There's a lot more shadow in the sky than there is in the building, for example. So I think it could be toned a little bit differently and get stronger. For now, I think it's a 7.
Hotel do Tasso.
Love this atmosphere. I don't know where it is, but just absolutely beautifully rendered. The color, the light management rather, is gorgeous. 2 things that were slightly bothering me were the mat on the left and the pole on the right. And it was like, if we can just either move the mat into the picture or move it out, and then adjust so that pole is just got a little bit more separation from the edge of the picture, that would have taken it higher. But as I say, gorgeous rendering. I think that's an 8.
Step by step.
Yeah, very similar to that previous, the one that got 9 in the last image, just the sort of front to back power of it. This has the added dimension that one didn't, of just that person with the hat. And so that's just a sublime piece of additional composition there. Whether you ask the guy to walk up and down doesn't matter. that it's absolutely perfectly positioned in the right place on that kind of bottom third. The light management's fantastic. You've got light coming from the left, but it's not a distraction at all. It's an enhancement to the image. So beautifully done. We'll give that a 9.
Okay, Scott, thank you.
It's okay. I'm exhausted now.
Okay, beginner intermediate digital color. First place was Do You Love My Feather Hat by Bruce Ryan.
Yay. I love that in this.
Second place is Skylights by Tony Lazzari. Third place, My Ride, Gary Hubel. Honorable mention, Playing with Lunch, Bruce Ryman. And the Judge's Award, Free as a Crowd by Kathy Ellen Shen. Advanced Digital Color, first place, Charging Hippo at Dusk, John Menday. Second place, and the Judge's Award, Water Drop Fashion Show. Third place, Calculating, Jane Richards. And the honorable mention, Morning Forage, Reno Zervosa. For the pro color, highest score was Winter's Moonset over Hornbeck Homestead by John McCluskey. Second place is Palazzo Biscari by Dave Purcell. Third place is Night Out at the Theater, also by Dave Purcell. And I will mention there would have gone to Into the Golden Hills by John McCluskey. Beginner intermediate digital black and whites. Make My Day, Bruce Ryan in first place. Second place, Regal Hall of Silence, Scott Bourne. Third place, Winter's Long Shadows, Tamara Ripley. Honorable mention, Majestic Stare by Tamara Ripley. And the Judge Award goes to Poncho and Steph by Jeff Scott. Advanced digital black and white. First place, Moonshine, Crystal Craft. Second place, Great Blue Storm, Reno. Third place, Pikes Peak View, Michael Reno. I'll mention the Uphill, Jeff Woodard. And the Judge Award goes to Early Morning Fog, Susan Liner. And third digital black and white. Four goes to Hotel de Tasso by Dave. And the second place goes Step by Step to Dave.
Yeah, real quick again, huge thank you to everybody for submitting images. Congratulations, a lot of really good ones. Thank you, Scott, for
Yes.
again, incredible commentary and the feedback and critiques and that. I think there's a lot to learn from critiques such as the ones that we're giving, and that. So really appreciate that. And Jane, thank you so much again for all what she had to do here over the last couple of days. I know this because I've done this before, but sorting through all of the images, categorizing them, separating them out, and so forth. I know there's hours that you put into doing that. So thanks again for doing that. So
I
really
just
appreciate it.
thank you. Just remember, first Friday.
First Friday,
Scott's
yep.
Gallery.
Yes, right.
2 days from now.
It's not just Scott's Gallery. Everybody along Santa Fe on our first Friday has them open.
Yeah.
We
Show you right around the corner, Scott.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So when he runs out of beer, come over and see us.
I mean, to tell you, it's really fun to go to the first Friday.
Yeah, it's a great, yeah, I've been to a few of those. That's great.
Good night,
Yeah, thank
everybody.
you.
Okay.